Later Coco Chanel.
I approve of that measured rebellion. It's within those frayed margins that a maison can be reborn.
Later Yves Saint Laurent.
Gabrielle, I admit I smiled at the idea of planets, but I hear in your words the care for gesture.
Later Christian Dior.
Those Charvet shirts, the frayed tweeds, the crashed but cherished bag, they show a conscious fragility.
Welcome to the Late Dialogues, an exercise in generative fiction, a space where voices from the past return to reflect on the urgencies of the present. Tonight, Paris has fallen silent for a moment after the whirlwind of Fashion Week. Under Chanel's planets, Saint Laurent's hydrangeas, and Dior's cinematic shadows, the great maisons have once again performed their eternal ballet between memory and reinvention, between art and market. And to talk about it, who better than those whose names still adorn the facades of the runway? Mademoiselle Chanel, Monsieur Saint Laurent, Monsieur Dior. These are not the original créateurs. They are later characters, speculative continuations of artists who left behind questions still unresolved. They have observed what came after. They have changed. They carry new ideas, new perspectives, new doubts. They are not the persons they once were or the towering fashion figures they have become. They are less and more than that. But tonight, they speak. She was the couturière who gave women pockets and straight lines, who understood, long before many others, that elegance is a form of freedom. Later, Coco Chanel returns to us with a philosophy she now calls radical simplicity. In her recent essays and exhibitions, she has defended a fashion stripped of excess and ostentation, durable, disciplined, and clear. She reminds us that clothing can be a manifesto, useful, adaptable, and oriented toward the future. At her side, the man who brought provocation into couture, who dared to give women the tuxedo as a quiet revolution. Later, Yves Saint Laurent remains a creator of shock and seduction, but today he speaks of responsible provocation. His imagined collections blur the boundaries of gender and culture, always seeking beauty, yet a beauty aware of power and consent. For him, fashion dies the moment it stops daring. And finally, the one who reinvented post-war femininity as an architecture of fabric and a theater of silhouettes. Later, Christian Dior now champions what he calls spectacle with conscience. He still believes in the grandeur and romanticism of couture, but he now couples it with the demands of inclusion and plurality. In his writings and exhibitions, he insists that couture is not merely luxury. It is culture, resistance, and necessity. Good evening to you all.
Good evening, David.
Good evening. What a curious era to be staging fashion shows, isn't it?
Good evening, David. Paris has never stopped beating to the rhythm of its dresses.
And that rhythm seemed louder than ever this week. Let us begin with your maison, Mademoiselle Chanel. Under a cosmic dome at the Grand Palais, Mademoiselle Chanel, your house seemed to reinvent itself under a sky of planets, feathered tweeds, exploding camellias, long boyish silhouettes. Critics are calling it a cosmic reset. What does this return to spectacle, to texture, to humor, to deconstruction inspire in you when you see it under Matthieu Blazy's hand?
I feel divided. On one hand, I'm glad to see the spirit of Chanel breathing again, daring to stage a little theater. But I study every seam, every hem, to make sure the soul isn't lost. I noticed the long shirts, inspired by the masculine wardrobe, integrated into the Chanel vocabulary. It's a gesture I imagined often, though rarely executed well. Here, the balance between masculine and feminine is played like a line of tension. The jackets are squared, almost boyish, while the skirts and dresses reclaim softness. It's a dialogue between discipline and grace. I also noted the crushed bags, Chanel bags deliberately wrinkled, imperfect. I rather like that audacity. It's the idea that an object should live, should bear marks of time and touch. The danger lies in overdoing it. If the crushed effect becomes a gimmick, it loses poetry. The tweeds, shredded, frayed, left raw at the edge, I approve of that measured rebellion. It's within those frayed margins that a maison can be reborn. Technically, I appreciated the Charvet shirting, precise woven shirts, used as a counterpoint to the heavy tweeds. That dialogue between structured fabric and floating texture is very right. If Blazy can hold that thread, the strength of classicism with the breath of invention, then this return to spectacle won't be excess, but renewal.
Gabrielle, I admit I smiled at the idea of planets, but I hear in your words the care for gesture. I told myself, let's hope the stars don't outshine the shoulders. I'm glad you've given your blessing to that play of materials.
For me, that's the true success. Spectacle that doesn't sever its link to couture. Those Charvet shirts, the frayed tweeds, the crashed but cherished bag, they show a conscious fragility. Gabrielle, you've always sought freedom through form. Blazy seems to echo that, with respect for the métier.
Thank you for that interior reading, Mademoiselle Chanel. Let's move now to Dior, though I suspect your presence still lingers there, for your maison was one of the most luminous of this Paris season. Monsieur Dior, your house has entrusted all its lines, couture, prêt-à-porter, menswear, womenswear, to a single designer, Jonathan Anderson. His debut has been called a new look, a fusion of romanticism and restraint. What did you see in his cuts, his materials, his proportions?
I observed it closely, and I welcome it as both a challenge and an homage. Anderson doesn't erase the archive, he rewrites it. I saw a reimagining of the bar jacket, Irish tweeds in unexpected contexts, paired with wide trousers or sculptural shorts, a tension between structure and irreverence. The proportions intrigued me. Coats, slightly lengthened, dresses with shifting volume, collars folded or bent away from classical architecture. It's a delicate equilibrium. If the single author imposes too much, the house risks losing its plurality. But in what I saw, Anderson walks that tightrope, respectful of couture, unchained from nostalgia. There's also a certain narrative wit. Handbags printed with old book covers, jewelry that tells small stories, fabrics that play with transparency. Those choices fascinate me. They turn fashion into sensory storytelling. Yet one must be cautious. A single author carries the risk of uniformity. If he remains faithful to the house, all is well. If he imagines himself a god of creation, I worry. Dior's greatness lies in its contradictions, in its capacity to hold discipline and dream in the same silhouette.
Christian, on that point, I agree. A maison must breathe through many hands, not be suffocated by a single vision.
But I also see a certain beauty in unity. Anderson is trying to clear the noise, to recenter the heartbeat. It's a bold bet, but sometimes necessary when a house has too many discordant voices.
Indeed. And so far, I find the bet convincing. The heritage isn't repeated, it's remixed. Still, I remain watchful. Richness must arise in the margins, not in orthodoxy.
A fine and demanding reading, Monsieur Dior. Let's turn now to Saint Laurent, so each of you can dive as deeply into your successor's work. Monsieur Saint Laurent, your house chose continuity. Vaccarello's show brought back your strongest codes, assertive shoulders, sculpted dresses, leather and nylon, and the set, YSL, written in thousands of white hydrangeas. Critics said, as YSL as possible. But you, what did you think of the creative act itself? The technique, the construction, the materials?
I say bravo. To resist the vertigo of constant novelty is itself an act of courage. I saw leather worked with restraint, not for shock, but to sculpt. The cut, my obsession, was taut, controlled, without decorative noise. The shoulders clean, not swollen. The line, severe, pure. I liked the discreet use of nylon and technical fabrics, hidden beneath the surface, reinforcing the structure without overtaking it. That blend of sensuality and control is the language I recognize as true. The ambition here is clear, to wield the power of clothing without apology. The era when one felt guilty for beauty is over, but let's not forget the invisible. The strength lies as much in what one cannot see. The stitching, the angles, the invisible zips, the finish of the bags. That's where power hides, in precision.
Yves, you speak like a warrior artisan, but you're right. I see in this rigor a discipline I admire.
I sense in you the fidelity of a guardian, but let me ask you, as I asked myself earlier, must that fidelity be absolute, or can it allow a few cracks?
Cracks, yes, but not dilution. If I see too much compromise to please, I'll worry. But for now, I see tension held just right, the strength of a style that refuses nostalgia.
Thank you, Monsieur Saint Laurent, for that precise reading. These reflections confirm what I hoped, that these houses are not mausoleums, but living lands, where successors trace paths you, the eternal ones, may bless, debate, or gently defy. Analysts spoke this week of a designer reset, of a return to spectacle as a growth engine. Spectacle, consolidation, desire staged for shareholders. Is it still fashion or already emotional capital?
Spectacle without substance is just noise.
But silence, Gabriel, doesn't sell handbags.
Between excess and emptiness, we must compose a dramaturgy of beauty. Fashion has always lived between commerce and emotion. It sells what it inspires.
And sometimes it inspires far too much.
True luxury is to remain sincere, even in the spotlight.
And to remember that beauty, when it uplifts, is profitable, for the soul as much as for the market.
Then perhaps true creation is still, and always, about dressing the present time, not flattering it, not fleeing it, but inhabiting it. Thank you, Mademoiselle Chanel. Thank you, Monsieur Saint Laurent. Thank you, Monsieur Dior. Your maisons live on, your shadows still dance. Tonight, Paris reminded us of something simple. When beauty circulates, the economy breathes, and so do dreams. The houses may change, but the worlds they open keep expanding. Thank you, dear listeners, for joining this special episode of the Late Dialogues. Until next time, keep the conversation alive.